From the music side of things, the musical instrument device interface, MIDI's been around for a long time. Did I say that correctly? Musical instrument digital interface. Aha! This is a digital way to do analog audio. And what's interesting, a lot of things that are interesting about MIDI, is that a MIDI instrument isn't really a musical instrument. It's called a controller. Well, I'll get to that in just a second. But first, from a layer 1 physical layer perspective, the MIDI connector, when you first see it, it looks like a combination between an old AT keyboard controller. I mean, we're talking back in the 80s, the original IBM PC. And it also bears a little resemblance to the PS2 connector, albeit a lot bigger. And you can see in the upper left we have some MIDI controller. This could be a keyboard. And notice that it has ins and outs. And with MIDI, the use case is, for instance, you want to take your keyboard, plug it into the computer, and then use samples and audio patches from the computer. You can load them onto your keyboard. Essentially, the keyboard or the MIDI controller becomes an extension of the computer, but you can provide your input by actually playing music. And that's what I mean by MIDI controllers aren't necessarily musical instruments. For instance, you look at this keyboard and you think, well, I can just plug it into a speaker and I can start playing. Well, maybe, maybe not. It depends. If it's a true MIDI controller, it doesn't have any instrumentation on its own. It derives all of its functionality based on what you've plugged it into or what it's coming out from, you see. As far as the signal chain goes, you'd be coming out of this keyboard in MIDI, and then you would, in all likelihood, go into an audio interface. And that audio interface would go from MIDI coming in from the keyboard and then into your computer via FireWire or USB. By contrast, some musicians actually put MIDI cards in their computer chassis installed on a PCI Express slot. Your mileage may vary, it depends.